The invisible audience. What? I'm Iman Ibrahim. I was a family lawyer for 19 years in Singapore and England. I am now a divorce coach and mediator. This is Divorce, actually. And what we do here is talk about what you actually need when you don't need more legal advice or more emotional processing. In the last episode, we talked about how to convince an unreasonable ex. Or rather, I told you, stop convincing your unreasonable ex. Today we're talking about the invisible audience that will read everything you write months or years from now, often with zero context. Let's get into it. So the question is, what do I mean by invisible audience? Let's take your text messages. Every message you send now during your divorce or separation, and I mean now, even before you've decided to divorce or separate, has two audiences. There is a visible audience, the person that you're writing to, your ex or soon to be ex. And there is an invisible audience. This could be the judge. This could be the mediator or conciliator. This could be a custody evaluator. This could be a lawyer or a psychologist, maybe if you're sharing it with them. So it's anyone who's going to read this later. And the thing is, we don't think about our invisible audience. Most people are writing for the visible audience, the person we're trying to convince, explain, or defend ourselves to. But who matters here? It is the invisible audience who actually matters. They are the ones reading your messages 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 24 months from now. They might not have the true context of the situation. They probably have zero emotional investment in it. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say they have zero patience for drama. If they are the judge, they are the one who's going to make a decision or decisions about finances, about child arrangements, about financial support. And they do this looking at your credibility. They are forming opinions, amongst other things, based on how you are communicating. Why does the invisible audience matter more than the person I'm actually talking to? Well, who's the one making the final decisions? In the court, the judge is looking at your messages and your evidence to understand the conflict dynamics. And in the custody evaluation, I'm going to put this very, very loosely and generally, that the evaluator is reading to see the co-parenting capability. Your ex has a narrative already. And the truth is, you're probably not going to change their narrative via the messages or emails or things that you say. You can absolutely influence what the judge thinks by how you write and how you capture evidence. And every message is evidence. It's not evidence of what happened. Okay, I mean, yes, it is, but it isn't. It's actually evidence of who you are. Are you reasonable? Or are you inflammatory? Are you focused on the children? Or are you focused on keeping conflict alive? The invisible audience is reading and deciding based on your writing. So, how should I write differently if I'm writing for this invisible audience? Imagine this third-party reader reading what you wrote in 2 years from now or a year from now with zero context. What are they actually going to see? Here are some things for you to consider. Okay, is what you're writing factual? That means, are you sticking to observable facts and avoiding interpretations or accusations? Are you being specific with clear requests, with specific timelines, rather than making these vague demands? Are you measured? This means even if you're raging on the inside, your writing stays calm. Are you focused? What really helps here is to stick to one topic per message, not every time you're throwing the kitchen sink at the grievance. And, well, is it short? You know, there's a lot of reading to do. And a nice, short, sweet explanation without, using the message as a justification and emotional processing makes it so much easier for the reader and lets them form a better opinion of you. So think about this. You are creating a record. It is no longer just about having a conversation. Before you press send, test the text. If a stranger read only this message, would they think you are reasonable? And if the answer is no, please rewrite it before sending it. Okay, now you're thinking about the messages and you would like some examples of what that might look like. So imagine this scenario. The ex is always late returning the children from his access time with them. Now, when you are writing for that visible audience and you're trying to convince them, you might say something like this. You're 45 minutes late again, and this is so disrespectful of my time and the kids' routine, and I'm sick of you thinking the schedule doesn't apply to you. You do this every single time, and it's completely unacceptable. And if you can't follow a basic custody agreement, then we need to go back to court. What does our invisible audience see? They see the emotional side. They see these accusations. They see threats. And actually, what they see is that this message is not focused on the children. So when you're writing for the invisible audience in this scenario, you might say something like this. The handover was scheduled for 6 p.m. today. The children were returned at 6:45 p.m. This is the 4th late return in 6 weeks. In brackets, previous late dates. So you can put the dates in there too for the previous returns that were late. If you want, you can add in now an additional sentence. Please confirm you can meet the agreed handover time going forwards. Now, what does our invisible audience see from this message? It's factual. Documented pattern is there, right? The other dates are there. It's pretty reasonable. And what it's focused on is complying with the scheduled handover time. What's behind this? Both messages actually do say the same thing. They say, you are late and it is a problem. But one message creates good evidence and the other is not that great for you. And yeah, now you're going, yeah, okay. They don't see that I'm frustrated. If you're telling me I can never express how I feel, then what am I supposed to do? Well, yes, I am telling you not to express how you actually feel. At least don't do this in writing to your ex. You're most welcome to express your feelings to your therapist or your counselor, to your friends, and maybe even to your lawyer in private if you don't mind paying for their hourly rates. But writing to your ex, that is not your place for your emotional processing. It doesn't mean you're becoming this inauthentic, manipulative person. What you're doing is becoming strategic about your audience. You wouldn't say, let me give you another example. You wouldn't send the same email to your boss that you would send to your bestie. So different audiences require different communications. The truth is the invisible audience doesn't really need to know how you feel. They need to know what happened, what you requested, and how you behaved. Your feelings are absolutely valid. And I'll say that again. Your feelings are absolutely valid, but they don't belong in evidence. You're like, but my ex is sending me these freaking long messages full of drama. How do I respond? Well, I have a framework for this. You can let me know and I will send it to you. I'm going to go over it here anyway. Number 1, don't match their tone. Don't defend against the accusations. Don't engage with their emotions. Extract any factual requests or information from their message, anything that's actually real, and respond only to that. Ignore everything else. That's it. Pretty simple. You don't need to address accusations. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to explain. The invisible audience sees they sent the emotional attack and you responded with facts. Over time, a pattern becomes very clear, and it doesn't favor the person sending the emotional messages. Your restraint is your strategic advantage. So, when should you put things in writing versus having a conversation face to face or over the telephone? Well, if you want a record, put it in writing. This means anything where there are schedule changes, financial requests, decisions about the children, put those in writing. Because if there's a dispute later, you are going to want to have evidence of what was said. Any emotional conversations, any attempts to resolve underlying conflicts, those can be verbal if you want. One would hope they're not being recorded, but I mean, ultimately, you may well be having these kinds of conversations. First of all, nobody can maintain perfect communication or perfectly strategic communication all the time. And there will be times where you do see each other face to face and you can't whip out your phone and start texting your response. You are going to have to say something. Let's see if we can avoid having a record of that emotional conversation or negotiation process. If there are any agreements or scheduling that's done verbally, follow it up in writing afterwards. So the general rule here is logistics in writing, and any kind of what I'll call conflict resolution, let that be verbal. I mean, if you're even doing that, maybe you should go back and listen to episode 2. Phone calls and face-to-face meetings usually would have no record. Of course, I know there are people who record phone calls these days, and even those who may now be recording those face-to-face meetings. So choose your channel accordingly based on what you need from the interaction. Now, what are the biggest mistakes I see people make with written communication? Putting every complaint that ever was into one message. It's so overwhelming and unfocused, and it really makes you look like you are the unreasonable one. The other mistake is defending every accusation. For example, they accuse you of 10 things, and you write back 10 paragraphs defending yourself. What is your invisible audience seeing? Conflict. Another mistake is, of course, to write back at a time when you are emotional. Now, it's pretty normal. And I'm going to say you can draft your angry message. Then please delete it. And when you're cool again, write the strategic version. Another mistake is assuming the context. And I have seen this one a lot as well. It's a lot less obvious though, because you know the background, or you think you know the background, but sometimes that's not the case, or sometimes your invisible audience is reading it and they don't know the context, they don't know the background. So if you take every message as a potentially standalone message, make sure it can stand up as credible. Just 2 more things that I want to run through here. Trying to win an argument can actually be a mistake too. The truth is, when you are at this point in time, in this divorce or separation, your arguments are not going to get won in a text message. So what you're doing is just creating bad evidence for yourself. And finally, this one, I think lawyers all out there will feel it. It's when you don't document your requests. So if you've asked for something verbally and they said no, put the request in writing again afterwards. Because the verbal stuff is just not going to come out. Your memory is not going to be there, but it becomes a he said and she said thing. So it's not helpful. So please always document things. Okay, I'm going to end it off here. Every message you write is being read by someone who will make decisions about your life. You don't know them. You don't know when they're going to read it. So write it for them. Don't write for your ex. In the next episode, we are going to move on to talk about the question behind the question, which means when you say, I want fairness, I want peace, I want the right thing, What is it you actually want? If this episode was useful, if you have questions, if you need any clarifications, please get in touch with me at divorceatelier.com. I'm Iman, and this is Divorce Actually.